Hi, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Healing Conversations. My name is Einav Avni, and I use the emotion code, the body code, and the belief code to help people suffering from chronic pain, chronic illnesses, or unexplained medical conditions to heal or reduce their symptoms. This podcast is all about healing chronic conditions naturally. So today I have with me Ginger Smith. Ginger, welcome. So lovely to have you.
Oh, I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. So let's get started and tell us something about you.
Well, I'm 86. I'm going on my birthday in a week. I'll be 87. And I'm a retired speech language pathologist who had to retire at age 75 when I began to experience dementia symptoms that were so bad that I couldn't work. And um, a kind of unknown why. I had a team of doctors, neurologists, all kinds. They just couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, and they just kept getting worse. And about 5 years after my retirement, I ended up in a wheelchair. Then, after 2 years, I was in a nursing home, and I was there for 2 years, off and on. I became bedridden at one point, couldn't talk, couldn't eat, couldn't move, hallucinating. At that point, they diagnosed me with Lewy body dementia, and I became so sick. I was in hospice. They gave me 2 weeks to live. My family ordered the cremation and started clearing out my house. And surprisingly, I didn't die. I started to get better. And 2 years, oh, no, about a year and a half after that, and slowly I got better. I came home, and I'm home now. I'm doing well. I passed my neurological evaluation with what they call I have mild cognitive impairment. I have trouble with some sort of um concepts involving time or money or um, appointments, stuff like that. But that's clearing too. I want to just say that a lot of people are helping me. I sure didn't do it all by myself, especially kind of my posse, I call it, like the people with Dementia Asian Alliance, the good people of the villages, volunteers, a charity. I have um, people that come in and do social communication with me. I was very active after I retired in the volunteering. I did a whole lot of volunteering, but that failed that because I kept doing odd things. You know, one of the things, one of my conditions was behavioral, and didn't understand. I did some awful things. So, in the long run, though, here I am talking to you and your audience, and just to say that, hey, it can happen. You know, here I am.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, everyone that heard about this conversation today, everyone is saying, wow, I must listen to this conversation. So I am very excited that we are here to share your story. And I wanna hear a little bit more. So here you are, now retired, but also experiencing all of these dementia-like symptoms.
Yeah.
What was it like, and what was that journey of until you were diagnosed? What was that like?
Well, it was pretty horrifying because I had no idea what was happening to me, even though I had an extensive experience with dementia patients as a speech pathologist. I was a rehab director. I was a volunteer myself. Oh, I was a caregiver myself too. So I knew that. And yet I couldn't ascribe it to me. I had what I called anosognosia, and it was horrible. And I was horrible to my family. I did horrible, nasty things. Everybody started when actually came back from the nursing home. I was ghosted by almost everybody, family, friends. It took a long time to get people back into my life to
Mm,
say that, hey, that wasn't me. That was my my handicapped brain that was being attacked by some sort of the neurons or what. It's still unknown. I have
Yeah.
some theories. I think my recovery had a lot to do with neuroplasticity. I think it had a lot to do with empathy. I really wanted to get well for my caregivers.
Yeah.
Resilience, you know,
So
I can't
let
account for it. I'm very happy about it though.
yeah, no, I'd love to hear more about that because so as you said, you had the symptoms. Finally, you got diagnosed,
Yeah.
and then after some time, you had to go into the hospice, so you couldn't look after yourself in the home anymore. And a
Well,
little
it
bit
was
later,
interesting because as I started to recover, they kept changing the diagnosis. Then they said it was uh, dementia with Lewy body symptoms. And then they said, oh, it was just plain dementia, which that's a umbrella word, kind of useless.
hmm I think we have some reception
People
challenges.
kind of hear my story because I was on a lot of medications toward the end. But my dementia started long before I was on medications, and it started getting worse when I was only one when I had to retire. But around when I was in the nursing home and hospice started, I was on 20 medications,
Right,
which is pretty awful. It's that, and then when hospice came, of course, they took me off all the curative medications. I just left the pain medications, and I think that quick, what do you call it? Quick started maybe my recovery had to
right.
do with it. Yeah.
So you told me before, yeah, you told me before about that basically they like you said, so they took away all the medication that was meant to help the dementia or the symptoms, and just left the ones that were for the pain. And
Yeah.
then, and well, first of all, did you know that? I mean, wow. Do
Well,
they always do that?
they kept changing my diagnosis for one thing. Um, and it might apply to a lot of women. I think a lot of women are misdiagnosed with bipolar because I was diagnosed about 20 years with bipolar.
Mm,
Well, I wasn't bipolar. It was the symptoms manifesting dementia at that point. So interestingly, after I came home, my psychiatrist, without me even asking, took me off of. He said, what did he say? He called it dementia. No, let's see, bipolar incomplete remission. And then he even took that off, took bipolar off completely.
wow. So,
Yeah.
so tell us a little bit more about that journey. So here you are in the hospice. The medication that you used to have for dementia and bipolar and all of that is no longer being served, but they kept the pain medication. How are you in your symptoms at that time?
Oh, I was bedridden, as I mentioned. I couldn't talk. I was just mumbling. I had hallucinations, a lot of hallucinations, and I remember them to this day. I can tell you about every single one of them. Kind of interesting. I thought I had awful tremors. That was my first bad indication quite a few years ago. Now I have no more tremors. That's gone. I was paranoid. I was I had REM sleep disorder. Couldn't, sleep was beyond, couldn't sleep. Let's see what else. I just had the whole gamut of all these, everything that's officially Lewy body. Even I had apcast. Do you know about capgras? So interesting to me. It's very unusual condition that's like Lewy body. You feel that the people are not really the people they are, so the head physician came in, and I was telling everybody, "Oh, he's an imposter. He's not really a doctor." So they had to usher me out of the room. I made such a fuss. I remember that one. Yeah, I gotta say I love your program. I listen to it. I love you. I think I love your smile because I think humor helped me too. Humor. I gotta add humor into that. You gotta laugh at some of the odd things I did. I'm writing a book and I'm calling it Barking Mad. Gone. Oh, there we are. My grandson took a video of me when I was right in the throes of dementia. I was barking like a dog and told everybody I was Hitler's dog.
Oh.
Well, so I call my story Barking Mad because it's all gone now. You know, that's the good thing.
So, uh, so tell me, and first of all, of course, thank you very much for your kind words. I really appreciate that. And I am really honored that you are here on the program today. But I want to know, so what happened next? So here you are in the hospice, not able to, bedridden, not able to get out.
Yep, yep.
Also, not actually, I don't know, not really aware of what is going on, or aware of some of the hallucination, as you said. When did you realize that things were changing? What was the
Well, that's
first
good.
step of change?
Yeah, that's interesting. And I kind of I remember it. I think pretty well. I was in this hospital with the couldn't get out, and I couldn't stand. I remember I would just fall to the ground, and I had these small caregivers that were they couldn't. I had lost a lot of weight too, by the way. I wouldn't eat, as I would look at the place of food, and it was like moving lava, and I would try. I was hungry, pick a spoon, get that in my mouth. I
Mm.
was under 100 pounds, and but after yeah.
So
Um,
the
I
reception is
remember,
not amazing. So it feels like we are cutting in and out.
yeah,
But
okay.
we
I'll just keep talking.
yeah.
um, so let's see. You want to know when I think I began to realize I was getting better, and I was lying. I couldn't get out of my bed, and I thought, I want to get well. I want to get well for these poor caregivers. So I just one day I just said I'm just going to I'm going to stand. This is my time to stand for them, and I did. And that was like, okay, I did that. Maybe I could do more. And I do remember getting out of my bed, climbing over the rails and the night, and I found my hospice folder. I found the documents, and I looked through them, and I saw all those medications that I had been on. I saw the diagnosis of Lewy body, and something in me said, even though I thought I would be trapped in that nursing home forever, because you get this learned helplessness. Maybe you've heard of it. Yeah, I really had it. I thought I was just gonna be there forever, but something in me said, write down that list of medications, and I did, and I have it to this day, and I've showed it to doctors, and they're like, oh God, she should have been on those, you know. And I also, I was incontinent on diapers in this one nursing home. Sometimes I only had, it was during COVID, by the way, 2019, no visitors. She kept losing all her patients. I was one of the last, and the caregiver, the one caregiver I had, was slept far away, and I would lay there in a filthy, poopy diaper for hours before he would come. So I started climbing out of my bed, changing my diaper, peeing, and then came back to bed and lie there and wait for him. And this one day, it was actually practically the day of the insurrection, 2019 in January. My son called and said, "You're going home." Wow, and he came to get me, and I came home, and that was almost, let's see, 3 years ago. Slowly, if anything, I'm still getting better to this day. I'm not regressing, and that's something I'm really proud of. And I'm getting my family back. I'm getting my friends back.
Mm. And that is incredible. But basically, what you are saying is, I made a decision. I managed, in a moment of clarity, I was able to recognize where I am, what is going on, and I said, I'm getting better.
Yeah.
But what is the next step? How? because I guess my understanding of dementia is that there's a lot of moments that you don't really know how to make sense of what is going on.
Well, one thing is I am eating really a lot better. A little exercise. I should do more. I'm having a hip operation actually in a little while. Um, I do meditate. I do keep up my friendships and the people that are helping, and that I think that helps my mind. I do read a lot, and like I said, I do writing my memoir. It's up to 300 pages. I
Mm,
have a kind of a supplement tip for caregivers because I had this lived experience that as a person who has some expertise in the field, who actually lived through being a caregiver and having caregivers taking care of me, I can talk to what works and what didn't work and what was horrible and what was good. And I
mm.
think that keeps me going,
Yeah.
keeps
So we'll talk
keeps me
about
busy.
the caregiving in a minute, but now you're describing, life today once
Hmm.
you already come back home. But I want to get back into that time when you were in the hospice,
Yeah.
making this decision that actually you are going to get better, and like you said, deciding to get off the bed. But it must have needed a lot of, I don't know, energy, powers, something beyond what is, to get this happening.
Well, I think I have a lot of resilience. It's kind of, you know, I had a wonderful life, but a lot of trauma in it. Just one trauma after another. I had a kidney disease as a little girl. Um, I had family, kind of a rough family situation, with a lot of good, a lot of bad. I watched my baby die, and that
Mm,
one thing, I think those experiences made me strong because by the time I got in the nursing home, I'd say, and started to get well, I think those traumatic experiences that I kept overcoming helped me overcome what was happening in the nursing home, what was happening to me. Um, I can remember all of the horrors of the nursing home, and some were great and some weren't. I was in actually three different ones, so I have some experience with a variety of them. The last one I was in was basically, like I said, she lost all her clients, all her other patients, and boy, that I was so isolated. Oh, isolation is a big one too. I wanted to mention that. That was, I think, that added to my not getting well as any sooner because I
mm,
I had just kind of basically given up, and I just lay there, or at that one point, uh, I could move all my limbs. I couldn't hold a glass. I started to be able to eat, and they would come and take me and put me in the wheelchair to the bathroom. Then they would still be in a wheelchair and they wheel me out to where we watch TV. And I was able to walk at that time. Uh, but I was punished by the people who were taking care of me, I
mm,
think. And this kind of awful, maybe the ad is that I was only the one patient they had. I think it was that they wanted to keep me sicker than I was, and I had to fight that too. Like the when I would get up at night and they didn't know, I would use the walker. I would walk, but during the day when I asked them, "Can I practice walking?" No, you're in the wheelchair. So I had to overcome that. And when I came home, my family had no idea how, that I was as independent as I was, and there was a big clash because they tried to they were trying to do their best as far as my health was concerned, but I was fighting for independence, and it was rough. It was a rough time for us, and I have such respect for caregivers.
mm.
Should be glad it's dark.
Wait. We just lost the last couple of sentences. The last I heard, you said you have a lot of respect for
I do.
caregivers.
Yep. Highest,
Yeah.
highest. I'll give you an example. One of the things that um, a dementia condition such as Lewy body has is, well, you're pretty gross. I would actually play with my poop, I'll tell you, and just the caregiver having to go in and clean up someone like that. They never made me feel bad. Even the ones that weren't so good, as I say, I never had that bad. But I did have experiences with some rough treatment. I was just like thrown against the bed once and not changed the diaper up at one point. It was even 12 hours I was laying there.
Mm.
And I had opened up a wound on my private area, laying there with a poopy diaper. That is very horrifying. That happened. And you know what? I really support cameras in nursing home for families to see what's happening to their loved one. And my
Mm.
family at home, when I first came home, they have a nanny cam on me, and that's fine. I respected that. I do. They don't need it now, but for a couple, well, maybe a year and a half, they kept the nanny cam on just to be, for my safety.
Yeah. Well, if you feel that you need something for your safety, then I can only imagine what it must have been like. It's
Yeah, it was.
yeah.
It was really horrifying. I had that anosognosia. I didn't realize what was wrong with me until they came. At one point, the who was it? The nursing director actually came to me and I said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And she said, "You have Lewy body dementia." I said, "Well, I knew what that was as a speech pathologist. I worked with people Lewy, and it was horrifying." I said, "Let me see. Show me on your cell phone." And she did. And I thought, "Oh my God, I have this. I have 5 years to live. I'm gonna live a meaning, cruel life, and my family's gonna go through hell." It was a horrible time when I got the diagnosis, but because I knew, and yet I didn't. I didn't. That was about it. That was about 7 years ago when they
Mm.
when they first came and told me about.
And so earlier you said, when I asked how do you explain the changes that you managed to bring about, and you mentioned neuroplasticity. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Neuroplasticity? Yeah. Well, I think what happens is that you have these folded neurons, or the neurons in your brain are being attacked somehow, some way. And everybody has the ability to, they know you can change your brain. They thought you couldn't, when I was growing up. And
Mm.
plasticity means that it can create its own movement of the neurons and the people and the places in the brain, and you can recover, and that's just one way. I think another way, I might say, is what's called, okay, it's called an autotophy, AUTOPHAY. I had lost that 140 pounds. I think that that loss triggered a cleaning, maybe a cleaning of the neurons in some way out of my, you know, just diseased brain. That
Yeah.
maybe it pruned the bad ones and allowed the good ones um, to multiply or at least get healthy. I don't know. These are all
Yeah.
mysterious things that they're starting to discover, and it's going to happen. I think. I hope in my lifetime.
So my understanding of neuroplasticity, which I'm not saying I understand much about it, um, is basically that yes, absolutely, like you say, we can change our brain. We can we can change our IQ. We can change how things are programmed, basically. My understanding is that we change the plasticity comes from a repetition. Is that also what happened in your case, or do you feel that there was something else? Because I mean, I'm just curious because I really don't
Oh,
know enough.
I think no, I'm not the only one. Absolutely, I think it's happened. I think the doctors, they're kind of, they're not that imaginative, and they don't think out of the box. But I don't think I'm certainly not the only one. I think I would love to see them. Now I don't I don't want to wait till they have an autopsy to discover if I do have these strange things in my brain. Wouldn't it be wonderful if they could figure out a way how to get into my brain safely and find something material that might help people? I
Mm,
don't know.
yeah,
I have these, thoughts that come in, and I'm a researcher by trade anyway. I love research, and I try to research everything that comes up. And I have the
yeah,
time now. I
yeah.
have the time. I still have my brain working, so I have the time to do a lot of research, and I do it. Yeah.
Mm. And I remember when we spoke before, when I asked you, how was it that first moment of realizing that actually you got some clarity in your thoughts again, and you said that you thought or you felt that maybe because they took away so much or so many of your pills and medications that actually some of that fog was lifted. Is
Well, I think so. I think that has something to do with it. But as I said, I have manifested actually some symptoms all my life. Severe restless leg, clumsiness, behavioral, a neuroleptic sensitivity. They couldn't give me any Novocaine because I would just go crazy. So all my life, I kind of fought symptoms, overcoming them because
mm,
I did end up with a great career, and overcoming them and overcoming the trauma thing. I think that helped in my recovery.
mm. And there must be, it's of course, I've never spoke to someone who had dementia and recovered, so I imagine that it it changes, right, how you look at yourself and how who you know that you are or who you knew that you were. How do you deal with that, with this new person that you're becoming?
Well, I'm a better person, I'll tell you that. I wasn't always, I could say, the most honest person. I did things that just weren't really so good, but I did have a near-death experience. I was only given 2 weeks to live. My body had shut down. My I was, in the process of dying, and I thought I had died. Now I realize it's probably chemical, but to me it was real and it was beautiful, peaceful. I was without a body. I was just in total peace. So a lot of people say that it changed some. Be a better
Sorry, we
friend.
just
And
we just missed that last part of the conversation. You said a lot of people say that when they have near-death experience, it changes.
yeah, I think so. I've heard that. I think it changed me. Like I say, something changed me. I'm a more I strive to be more honest. I used to be pretty manipulative, but I have to undo that. And I used to be, well, let's see, I would say more difficult, stubborn. And I'm really trying to be a better person. And if I can impart any of that to people, it's like almost, I don't want to be too corny here, but it's almost like my mission is to help people. And that's why I came back and I
Mm,
didn't die. And I have this great opportunity at my age and having this wonderful experience of recovering from dementia that maybe that I can share, that if I can import it to people, even through maybe my caregiving experiences too.
Mm.
That's why I came back.
I'm sure you're right. And tell me, what was it like for your family? You know, as you said, they were already putting your affairs in order. They were already starting to clear everything, and all of a sudden, here you are back. And you mentioned, right, that with the dementia there was some challenging moments. What was it like?
Well, I was pretty terrible for my family. I mean, I was I had a wonderful family. I have two great sons that I raised, and my grandson I raised, and my daughter, I told you, died as a baby. But um, my family, just like any other family, I think, in the world, when you start with dementia slowly. To them, it looked like I was just being a typical old person, and they kind of coped with it. But it got worse and worse. I got more confused. I was making terrible financial decisions. Lost the control of my condo. I was buying 3 or 4 sets of everything. I had like clothes. I would have, you know, three, four sizes. I remember once I bought 3 different cat boxes. Just really bad decisions with money. And finally, my family realized what's happening to me, tried to come in and fix it. But by then, it was just disastrous. And by then, I fell 8 times in one day, and they couldn't get me. I was overweight at the time. My body didn't behave, and my feet would my toes would curl under, and I honestly could not get myself up, and um, so it looked like I was lingering, and they really thought I was faking it. I think that's a horrible thing that happens a lot with people with dementia. We aren't faking. We aren't trying to be mean on purpose. We're just fearful, and so they ended up having to send me to the nursing home. About 5 years ago is when that happened, when they couldn't take care of me because I was just causing so much grief to everybody and all the falling. And when I came home, it was rough, as I said at first, because they didn't realize, they didn't think it's possible. For
Mm.
people, just everybody says, "Oh, you can't recover from dementia. It can't happen." Well, hello, here I am. Yes, you can. I think a lot of people have, and they try to pin it on something else. I know that people are always trying to pin it on, well, you took too much medication. Well, no, my dementia started long before that. I did have inflammations, yeah. I did have UTIs. I had a history of mistaken history of bipolar. I
Mm.
had an addiction history that I kept overcoming that. I had seven, sober, clean and sober. I'm very proud of that. I'm very active in that clean and sober community. Um, Life Ring, not AA, but Life Ring and Women for Sobriety. Yes, I had all that, but all those are temporary. Your dementia or your delusions are weeks or maybe months. I had it for 2 years, over 2 years. The bad part, the bedridden, lying stay, being in a nursing home. So,
Mm.
well, still don't account for it, but I don't those things. No, that was just one of the many symptoms I had.
Mm. Um, so when you came back, you said they didn't understand or they didn't recognize how that you were so much more independent than they
Right, right.
imagined. So
Mhm.
how was that initial period?
Well, it was horrible for us. Well, for instance, I was able at that point to shower myself, and they insisted on doing it. My daughter-in-law, my poor son. I came home in diapers, which is ridiculous because I had been changing my diaper and walking, but I didn't know. My brain wouldn't tell me that I didn't need the diapers, and he had to put them on. And then one day I just wait a minute, I can just use, disposable panties. You don't have to diaper me. Things like that. They're very humiliating things. Although I must say, they were wonderful. But we fought because and I got real stubborn and maybe pretty mean. I don't think I was mean, but kind of they did. But yeah, it was an awful experience for them. And I'm just very thankful that I do have that they did let me come home, and I have my cute little condo that I live. I have people that are helping me, a lot of kind. I reached out. One of the things is I really did advocate for myself, and I reached out and found people to come into my life, and they have.
Nice. So before we finish for today, you mentioned the caregivers, and you have some tips for do's and don't do's. What would be some of these that you can share with us today?
What were the things about caregivers that were helpful? Oh yeah. Well, I completely agree with now this what they do is fibbing and being able to enter the person's world and not tell them that they're wrong. When I would talk about people coming in the room, for instance, or they would. I'll give you a good example. I use this all the time, and I think it's a good one. I thought there were horrible snakes in my bed once, and the caregiver just calmly came in and said, "No, those are just wrinkles in the blanket." And I never saw the snakes after that. And another one is that I believed that I was actually a mean snake. I was a horrible, mean black snake. I was able to use lucid dreaming, which is a technique I use, um, to change horrible, mean snake into a pretty green jeweled snake that was a pet. And that was and that's one of the things I would love to teach the caregivers that they don't have to hallucinations don't have to be horrible. You can change them. Yeah, now I don't have hallucinations anymore, but I do use lucid dreaming, and
Yeah,
I can change my dreams to good things. That
yeah,
can happen.
sounds very powerful. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, any other tips that you would like to share about if someone who is a caregiver, something that maybe
Um,
you know
well, one thing is I gave up my driving voluntarily, and I knew I wasn't safe. But that's a bad one. People just do not want to give up driving, and I support the idea of telling the person or disabling the car, for instance. Uh, you know, uh, let the person down gradually. I don't know if that makes sense, but we're not trying to be mean. We're trying not trying to be stubborn. Of course, dementia hits the elderly, and when you
mm,
get at that point, your independence is so valued. So when it's threatened, like you can't drive anymore, or you can't do your own cooking. No, they turned off my stove and the burners, and I respect that. I haven't actually turned them back on again. Things like that.
yeah,
Gently handle your loved one without challenging them. If you could do it, so to speak, even behind their back, gently, like, "Oh, sorry, the oven's not working right now. We'll use your use something else. Use and that gentle caring of your loved one without challenging them, to me, I think is so important. And it's so rough on the caregivers. I my gosh. what they have to go through. It's and they
Mm.
usually die before their loved one does anyway because they're so stressed. So take care of yourself. Maybe that's what I could say. If I can impart that, number one, be sure you're okay. Get rest, eat well, get
Mm.
care if you need. But number one, take care of yourself. Don't let my poor son lost a lot of weight. Marriage was threatened, because of my horrible behavior. So I just hope that in some small way for the caregivers.
I think it's very important what you're saying. I mean, there's two things that you said that I think that are so important. First of all, of course, for the caregivers themselves to also remember to look after themselves. That's, like you said, very important. But the other thing is that when they deal with the person who is not doing so well, is to remember that it's quite, it's quite a shock for both parties. The person who is suffering and is going through all of these changes, they're just as confused as everyone else. They also need to adjust to this new situation. So being more patient, being more loving, being more accepting, and like you say, you know, listen to what is being said and treat it with respect, not to, I don't know, not to bring some mockery or impatience to the mix. It's very important.
Right.
Um,
Mm, yeah. I know. I think it's really important for caregivers to try to find to seek out information like on YouTube. There's she's Cheap Snow. I've been on her show twice. People like that view. The good healing concept because I certainly support that. Uh, and you know, I support people looking into the clash of over poly medication. Look into that. Educate yourself, but take care of yourself first.
mm, that's a very
Because
important message.
yeah, it's so rough on you. But if you're feeling horrible and just overburdened and miserable, how can you treat your loved one if you're feeling that bad? So seek out all the help you can and get healthy yourself. Take care of your health, and
Mm,
then you can treat your loved one. And with you have more patience. Patience is a big one.
yeah.
If you don't have that, because oh my gosh, that if you because the person with dementia is they can be really annoying. They can be constant. What day is it? What day is it? Or have questions like I was constantly asking for medication, begging for medication, and I would forget. Half an hour later, I would beg again and call my poor son who was at work. I need more medication, and then 15 minutes later, and I didn't realize because my mind would totally forget that I had made those calls to him, and I would
Mm,
just do it over and over again, and terribly annoying.
yeah. I can see why you say patience is a is a major
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Well, Ginger, thank you so much for coming here and telling us, sharing with us your story. It's remarkable. I am looking forward to reading your memoir and hear, learning more about you. And thank you so much for being here today. So I'll just take the reception is back. I was just going to say that for anyone listening, of course, I hope you found something here today that you didn't know before. Maybe this has given you some hope or inspiration to find your own way of healing yourself naturally. And yeah, and Ginger, you're back now. So I'll just say again, thank you so much for being here today.
yeah. If anybody wants to contact me, they can phone me. I would love to talk to you. Can I give them my number?
I'm going to put all of your
Oh, good.
information in the
Okay,
show notes so
okay,
people can reach out.
Good, thank you. And thank you for for having me on the show. Would be brave enough to let me tell my story. Thank
Oh,
you.
it was my pleasure and my honor to have you here. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye bye.